Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle, and as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session.
Danielle, welcome to Camp Chaos. We are so excited to have you here with us.
Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
We are beyond excited.
I know.
It feels like a friend just coming over.
Well, we're going to get into so much with you, but for people who are maybe living under a rock and don't know who you are and what you do, just share a little bit about what you do.
Yes, for sure. I'm a certified pediatric sleep consultant, and I sleep train lots of babies. I have a child development psychology degree from UCI, and I just love going all around town, helping families sleep train and work with lots of families, night nannying and newborn care and all the things.
Danielle, welcome to Camp Chaos. We are so happy to have you here.
Beyond excited to have you here.
Hey guys, thank you so much. I'm super happy too.
Okay, well, for people who are living under a rock, can you share a little bit about what in the world you do?
Yes, I am a certified pediatric sleep consultant. I'm a night nanny. I have a degree in child development and psychology, and I help families and I give the gift of sleep.
It's amazing.
You know, that's really wild to me because I find that to be the worst part of having a baby is sleep.
Yeah,
or
for
lack
sure.
thereof. Like when you come home from the hospital, it's so shocking the lack of sleep that you experience. And it's like you are so unprepared for what's to come.
You think that you know until like you're on probably like the first 2 weeks to me are like adrenaline. And then
Totally.
like the third week, the fourth week, you're like, this is not getting better. In fact, sometimes it's getting worse.
Oh, it's always getting
And
worse.
where's
Yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
compounding effects of sleep deprivation. How in the world did you get started in this line of work?
Oh my gosh. So I was a nanny for as long as I can remember. I used to, my mom used to drop me off before I could even drive to like nanny for just local kids in the area. And then as I kind of was doing that, I met a woman who was a sleep consultant, and she had an amazing company that she built like strong relationships and connections with lots of families, but she didn't have night nannies. So she wanted to add that to her company. So I started working for her as a night nanny for the company. So
Okay, wait. How old were you at this point?
Oh my gosh.
Because you were young when you got started.
Yeah, I was 18, I think, 17, 18.
A child.
When I was still in college. I had just graduated high school. I was actually wanting to go to nursing school. I wanted to work in the NICU. So I knew that I wanted to work with babies. And then it was just kind of perfect. It fell on my lap where I was able to go and see all these newborns and work nights, but not have to go through all of the school and work in such a high stress environment like the NICU.
For sure. But could you also imagine an 18-year-old coming over and being like, I'm going to take care of your baby at night?
gosh.
There's no effing way.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
I struggle at first,
right?
People to trust me because they're like, "Who is this girl? Like, she's so young." I didn't have my own kids, of course. So, what helped me was that woman referring me out. So many people. She trusted me with her baby. She had newborn twins at the time. So, her referring me out meant the world because then everyone else started trusting me too. So,
Was it just like very instinctual for you to like be around newborns and figure out how they sleep?
Yeah, because
so.
Danielle doesn't have kids yet.
No, I
like,
don't.
Which
Which
is, also,
I think, one of the craziest parts about the whole thing is that you're an expert in this area and you don't have kids and you want to do this for work.
Totally.
But you just don't want to have kids now.
I'm in no rush now, but I feel like I have hundreds of kids because I've been able to help so many families and so many newborns, and it's so special. And I feel so lucky to be able to give that gift of sleep. But it's just like these newborns, it's so fun, and it's totally instinct. And with all of my like certifications and education, I find that the most I've learned is just doing it and being in person. And
Okay, but I will tell you, like your certifications, yes, but I hired you.
yes.
And actually, Taylor is the one that was like, there's somebody, if you want to hire her, if you're willing to pay, even if you have to sell a handbag. I'm like, I will sell anything. Actually, let me back up. I didn't say I will do it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to do it myself. I'm not going to let anyone let my baby cry. I'm not going to let him cry. I'm going to let him sleep in my room until he's 18 and decides to leave me to go to college. Then I'm like on month 7, month 8, month 9, I'm like, holy shit. If I ever want to have a second baby, if I want to fix my relationship, because you start to like who's your husband?
Yeah.
Like we need to, the sleep deprivation is so intense. But when I talk to you, I was already on the fence of like, I don't care what education this girl has. You could have told me that you like didn't even graduate high school. I was so desperate that I was like, when can you come? Can I schedule my husband to be out of town and can you come tomorrow?
Yeah.
But I will say, like, knowing that you have this insane education and obviously amazing reputation, being able to go to sleep and let her take over with your child
is
the
beyond
best gift in the world.
What qualifications like do you have? How does one like get trained to be a sleep consultant?
So there's courses everywhere you can do online, in person. I did a course online where it was a certified pediatric sleep consultant. It's a course where you work one-on-one with a teacher, and basically you like send reports in, sleep plans, case studies, and she just runs through it all. And then you kind of do a test drive where you have to do like 10 hours of consulting with babies just to learn. And then she kind of checks your work. And then I also did newborn care specialist certification just because I was working with so many newborns. I wanted to get that extra step of just knowing exactly the science behind it and exactly what's perfect for these babies at different ages.
Well, like what you said, I mean, it's similar to college. It's like, yeah, you can go and have 4 years of college, but what I learned outside of the classroom was so much more beneficial.
The tactical experience.
Yeah, having experience. Do you remember like the first night that you worked, like your family and what it was like?
Believe it or not, my first client ever was triplets.
No
I swear,
effing
I
way,
literally
Danielle.
got thrown into it. I had no idea what I was doing. And another thing is you want this mom to trust you. So I had to go in there, like act like I knew what I was doing, everything. I had all my education. I had experience with newborns, but I'd never done a night before. And I had 3 6-week-old newborns right in front of me.
Danielle, I would not trust you because you said yes to doing it. I'd be like, this person's clinically insane. Do not come to my house.
I know, but it was almost the best way to do it because I just threw myself into it. And that's kind of just how it goes. Is every baby's so different. And that was like perfect proof of that is like, I can do the exact same thing with every single baby, but one's going to sleep, one's not. One's going to need an extra cuddle before they fall asleep. One's not. So it was kind of a perfect learning experience for me because I was able to try with 3 different babies and kind of learn how to make it all work.
Well, and you tailor everything. It's not like so cookie cutter. Like I mean, from experience, you've come into my house for 72 hours straight twice. We spent 144 hours. My math is really bad. But we spent a lot of time together and watching how you adjust based on what the baby's doing. It's not like okay, I'm going to go shut the door and then watch your baby and, make sure your baby's sleeping. Yeah. It is so fine-tuned of what you actually do.
It's just tailored to the baby. And you can have this textbook in the sleep course where it tells you what they should be doing, what their wake window should be.
Yeah, babies don't do that. No, they're like, oh, you want me to do this? Watch this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you want to? Yeah, not a chance.
Yeah, so it's just like you have to adjust, you have to tweak. And even with your 2 kids, they were so different. And I come in with the same idea, the same protocol, and then we have a different result with both. So it just kind of depends on the baby. And that's what's so special about coming into the home is that I'm able to see it more in person and it gives me more of a wider view to handle every baby differently. And
for sure.
Get our success.
Well, I did a deep dive on your TikTok, which we'll get into later. But I think something that really like tug at my heartstrings was like, it feels like watching you like you're a mom to them, which is really hard because that would be the hardest part for me is like trusting someone to like kiss my baby and say, especially at night, right? You're trying to lay them back in bed and you want them to know that they're still loved. And when I was watching your TikTok and you're like, good night, I love you. I was like, she's just so like, sweet. You have so many maternal just like instincts in you that make people feel better. But what does like a typical night look like for you? Because I have never had a night nanny, but let me tell you, after going through your TikTok, that is going to be my gift to myself for my 3rd kid.
One thing I think, Danielle, like you need to tell moms that they need to register for this. Like for everything on baby list,
when I'm
need
3 months
nothing.
pregnant, I need to.
Yeah, honestly, like you don't need any onesies. Register for, and I just got goosebumps. Like I wanted a night nanny and my aunt gave me the worst parenting advice I've ever received in my life. She said, you tried so hard for this baby. You're going to give all these special moments to somebody else. And I was like, you're right. I don't need one.
Gosh, yeah.
The special moments of sleep deprivation.
100%.
The special moments. That's a huge part of it.
You enjoy the special moments.
Exactly. And I'm not there every single night. The moms have
unfortunately.
No, truly.
They have their time to bond with the baby too. And then they also have the energy all day to give them and be the best mom they can be, especially when you have toddlers running around too. If you're sleep deprived, no sleep at night because of the baby, and then all day you're trying to catch up and be there for your son or older daughter and also the baby, it's important to just get that sleep and rest.
It's a horrible, vicious cycle.
It really
is. Yeah. Yes. And I want to get into like registering for you later, but I just want to know for like me who I've never experienced a night nanny, like what are you going to do when you come into my house?
So typical shifts are like 10 to 12 hours. It just depends. And I come in and usually around 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock PM, and I just try and take over right away. So I usually do a quick chat with the mom, catch up how the day went, talk about the nap schedule when the baby last ate. And then I send her off to bed and just try and take over. So I'll take care of all the bottles, all of like the sanitizing, breast pumps and everything like that. And then tend to the baby for whatever the baby needs. Diaper changes, swaddling, feeding, soothing, cuddling, anything the baby needs, I'm there and to take care. A lot of my mom's nurse. So when it's time to eat, I'll bring the baby to mom. She'll wake up, do the nursing, and right when she's done, take the baby back, do the burping and putting back down. Some babies are reflexy, need a lot more upright time. They need a lot more extra love after they eat. So it's just beneficial to mom to only have to be up for that quick 15, 20 minute nursing session and then hand them off and go back to sleep. I put the baby back down. We do a lot of bottle feeding too, pumping. If mom's pumping, I try to grab her milk from her so she doesn't have to worry about getting up and putting it away. So I'll take it, store it, freeze it, wash and sanitize all her stuff, and then put the pump back next to her bed so she can
a dream.
Again in a couple
Look
hours.
at her jaws on the floor. She's literally like, yeah, it's like you're talking dirty to me.
No.
Like, go on, tell me more.
Yeah, it's really special. And every family's different too. Some moms keep the baby for the burping and the skin to skin. Some will take them in the early morning hours for a little bit longer. And sometimes I let myself in, let myself out, don't even see the parents. Like, it's just so different for every family. And my goal is just to do the best I can to ease the load for the next day. So,
okay. One thing she's not getting into is like, some moms, twofold. Some moms are such control freaks that you're like, why am I even here? Like, let me help you. And then other moms have it where, like, I know some husbands have contacted you and said, I need this for my wife for the second baby.
Yeah.
The first one had really bad case of postpartum depression, and we can't have that repeat for the sake of our older child. Like, we need to have you. And you, honestly, I think you save marriages. I think you save moms. Like, it's truly the best gift in the world. And nobody, unless you've had children, nobody will understand until you've walked those shoes.
Yep.
But I also find it really interesting, no kids coming into a situation where you're married now, you have your own company where you have girls under you. So not only are you doing it, but you have a team under you.
Yeah, which is really awesome because when we can just help more families and I can kind of oversee them, and I still work so directly with every family to add that sleep consultant aspect of it where we can get their baby sleeping through the night by 12 to 14 weeks. But my girls can go in and do the nights so that the moms can also get the rest, but still get that Danielle promise of getting the baby sleeping through. And
that you have like a stamp on each trainer over that you're not a trainer, because they're really more of like the night nannies versus a trainer.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. They're all newborn care certified. So I always make sure just to have that certification for them, but I oversee them and go through a lot of training. They do a lot of training nights with me before they go off on their own. And it just basically gives me a wider range to just help more families.
Okay, so backing up, when did you branch off and start your own, the Sleepy Pear? Like, let's talk about that.
Yes, the Sleepy Pear is about a year old. I've been in the business for about 10, but I worked with an amazing woman that I mentioned earlier that just started an awesome company. And I worked with her and she kind of set me off on my own. Yeah. And so the past year has been more of a focus on the Sleepy Pear and more help in home with families. So we're like the sleep training and night nanning. It's just more specified, like you said earlier, to the babies and adjusting to everyone differently.
Well, what I think is so crazy is not only are you helping moms get some sleep, but you're like implementing good sleep habits, which I tried to do on my own. 2 different experiences with both of my kids, but like it's hard to be sleep deprived and do that at 3, 4, 5 in the morning. So like when you're working with a newborn, what are some of just like the basic sleep habits that you start implementing right away?
Right away. So laying down awake is the most important thing at any age with your baby. Newborn, 10 months old, 6 months old, any age, you always want to
6 years old.
Yeah, seriously. Lay them down.
Lay down. Awake.
You have to be able to self-soothe and put yourself to sleep.
Exactly.
Which was the hardest lesson for a mom, and I think actually harder on a mom than a baby.
Yes, I think so too, because it's our natural instinct to tend to the baby, and you want to do that like slow motion, lay them down, no one make a noise, like let's make sure you don't wake.
Crawl.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So when they're so little, you want to lay them down awake, but they're going to need that extra comfort still. So you put your hand on them, you soothe them, you give them that comfort as if you're rocking them, but they're on their back. And then they start to learn and connect the dots that when I'm laying on my back, I close my eyes and I fall asleep. Mm-hmm. So then you soothe less and less and less as you go. So the biggest thing with newborns is in those first couple weeks, we're waking them up to eat or making sure they're gaining weight. So those first few weeks are more just like tending to the baby, feeding on demand, whatever they need. As they cross that 5-6 week mark is when we can kind of start to lead them a little bit more. And that's when they wake up in the night. We often confuse comfort for hunger. So our first instinct is like, oh, baby's awake, they're hungry, let's feed.
For sure.
And sometimes they eat an ounce or two. Other times they'll guzzle a whole bottle.
No, they start snacking almost at night though.
And that's usually what it ends up being, is more snacking. So the biggest tip for babies over 5-6 weeks is when they wake up in the night, try a passy pop, try to soothe, try to comfort, to see if you can extend their sleep a little bit longer. And that will kind of teach them to wake up when they're hungry, not just for an extra cuddle or soothe, which is important, but also we don't want to get confused to go towards the snacking and waking up multiple times a night to eat.
Well, and the biggest thing is like putting themselves to sleep. That means that when they wake up in the night, because we all wake up at night, unless you're my husband who doesn't wake up at night, right? But when you wake up at night, that they're like, oh, okay, I don't need mommy to rock me back to sleep. I think you had said to me when I first interviewed you, imagine going to sleep in your bed and then waking up in your neighbor's bed and being like, what the F? Like, how did I get here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens to the babies, especially when they're not familiar totally yet with their environment.
I was with my mom in my arms and the comfort, and now I'm here by myself. Yeah.
Panic, and then that's when they go to the crying, and it makes total sense, right? Like they are kind of startled. Where am I? So when they're able to fall asleep in their crib in that safe place, then when they go through a dip in a sleep cycle, which is usually about 45 to 60 minutes is a sleep cycle. So when they are in a light period of sleep and they kind of wake up a little bit, instead of startling awake and being like, where the heck am I? They're like, oh, I fell asleep here. I'm good. I close my eyes and I go back to sleep.
Yeah. Which is like very normal because we wake up in our sleep too.
Yeah.
Like it's fine if they wake up. Now, I know you said you work with like a ton of newborns, but for Kendra, you didn't call her until I was Kendra, your time is decreasing. Zane is getting older and older. You need to call her.
Well, because there's a sweet spot, right? Like, what is your sweet spot of doing your 72? Well, I'll let you introduce what your
okay. So that's what I was going to say is like not only newborns, but you can also come in with people who, like, for me, my son, I nursed him, breastfed him, and then at 6 months, I'm like, what are we doing here? Because we're still waking up 3 times in the night, and you're just snacking. And I tried, like, I read every book. I tried like lowering my nursing by 3 minutes every 3 days. I tried, and then finally it was like, okay, I'm just gonna shut the door. Yeah, that worked for me. But I actually talked to you before that morning, and then I told Drew, my husband, and he was like, all right, let's just shut the door tonight, and let's just see before.
Yeah, but you're like a really rare case, Taylor.
Right, I am, because my sleep is so important to me. So, like, what do you do for families who are maybe a little bit their babies are older and they just need you to like come get us some sleep?
This bitch.
Yeah,
so
for Kendra.
Around 4 months, the babies start to get that skill of self-soothing. So I never do like a sleep training program until they're at least 4 months old.
Because it's actually brain development, right?
Exactly. Like they just don't have that skill yet. So as hard as we can try to sleep train them at that age, it usually won't work. If you lay the good foundation in the early months, it's all they know. So you don't ever have to sleep train. But that's why if you haven't laid the foundation and your baby isn't 4 months yet, then you just start working on those skills. And then when they hit 4 months, you can do a program.
Yep.
So my sweet spot is about 5 to 8 months. I think that's like the perfect time to do sleep training because they're older than 4 months. So they have that skill, but they're also more established, they're more awake, they're more active in their playtime. And then they're also kind of starting to get through that more independent phase of their life. I mean, teething all comes into it too, but
it's never going to be perfect. So you're going to pick
exactly. So
the lesser of all the evils.
Exactly. Yeah. So the program I do is called 72 and Sleeping Through. And I basically come in for 72 hours straight and I take over and do all of the sleep training. So I come in at 7 a.m. day 1, leave at 7 a.m. day 4, and just take over completely, do all the feedings and the playtime and all the training for the naps and the nights. And basically we just lay this foundation and I just teach them how to sleep, how to put themselves to sleep. And me being here in person for the 3 days leaves like no room for error. So it's like, I know exactly how to pivot, how to handle, because babies aren't robots. They're going to wake up when they're not supposed to. They're going to take longer to fall asleep than we had planned for. So when I'm here, it's easier for me to pivot, change it, and kind of move the program to flow with the baby. And then after the 3rd night, they sleep through and I'm on to my next one.
Literally, when you left my house with Zoe, I was like shocked. I think I was texting you. I went to a birthday party for one of our friends. I'm like, the baby's sleeping. This baby was not sleeping. I had my nanny and her sister do nights for me because of all the stuff that I've had in the past with Zane and his sleep, which we will talk about. But it was like one of those, it's like you pulled the wool over my eyes and then all of a sudden my baby was sleeping. It was like a magic trick. I'm like, if it wasn't for my husband being so psycho and be like, I'm watching the camera, I'm watching Danielle. I'm like, I would have thought that she was, he's like, what if she's giving Benadryl? I'm like,
It's actually funny you say that. I'm like, I always joke around like, oh yeah, I put a little bit of whiskey in the bottle. Like no one ever notices. No, I'm totally kidding. But it's just like, it just goes to show how like structure and timing can make the biggest difference. And
when is your birthday? Like, what's your sign?
May 2nd. I'm a Taurus.
Oh, structure, right?
Yeah, structure.
There you go.
And like very regimented. So it's kind of just.
So when you're interviewing for night nannies, find a Taurus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Exactly.
Well, so with the 72 and sleeping through, I think why it's probably so successful, I'm obviously not a sleep expert, is because you're adjusting more than just the night. So like you have to adjust the day sleep
and sleep is so important.
It's so
it's
important.
Everything.
It's and like what they're doing during the day. So for like families that you're going in to work on sleep training, what are some of the bigger mistakes you're like fixing?
Oh my gosh. So the biggest thing I always hear.
She's going to give Era all my dirty laundry right now. I'm like, yeah, what are they, Danielle?
Let us know.
Did you sign an NDA?
Yeah, because what it is like, oh, I'm just going to keep my baby up later because it'll make them sleep longer. It is actually the complete opposite. That is the biggest thing I hear, and like the most like thing, the best and most important thing to avoid. So when you keep your baby up longer, it actually makes them more overtired, which leads to more constant wakings and early morning wake ups. It makes it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. So the like best thing to do is just control the wake windows. You want to get the baby down before they're showing tired signs. I get questions all the time, but she's playing and she's happy.
She doesn't seem
so
tired.
She doesn't seem tired at all. I'm like, yep, perfect time to put her down.
Yep.
She's at her 2-hour mark. Put her down no matter what. The second you start to see the red eyebrows, the yawning.
It's too late.
It's way too late. It's just too late. So,
well, they say good sleep begets good sleep. Bad sleep begets bad sleep. And I never really understood that until you came. And I'm like, shit, she was right.
Well, also for like any new moms listening or expecting moms, this was so hard for me to understand because when Miller was a newborn, we were in his nursery literally watching a USC football game. And I'm like, let's keep him up till 10 because then he's going to sleep till 9. Like that's
seems
what
like
we
simple
do.
math.
Like
Yeah.
it's really,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense before you're in it. To put them down earlier means that they'll sleep longer, but
And for a lot of moms,
so
it still
true.
does not make sense. Like if you're in the thick of it as a mom right now and you're feeling like, oh my God, that they're wrong, just try it. But then stay consistent, right?
Exactly. Yeah, consistency is super important too. So you want to set like a goal bedtime that you want. I typically follow like a 12-hour schedule. So if your goal is to have the baby up by 8 o'clock in the morning, then 8 o'clock should be the bedtime.
Yep.
So, and you just have to control if she has a bad nap before bedtime, then you just got to put her down a little bit earlier and she probably will sleep until her desired wake up of 8 o'clock. So that's another part of just adjusting to the baby in the day. And again, the babies aren't robots and the naps aren't going to be perfect, but if you kind of just follow the wake windows and put her down before she seems too tired, that's going to set you up for the most success and to get the best sleep because she's rested. So she's going to sleep better. And then you're going to sleep better too.
So what I found most helpful was not only what you did with Zoe and with Zane, but actually what you did for me of like teaching me how to navigate. Okay, it's okay if this happened. It's okay if she skipped her little cat nap. It's okay if this nap's on the go. It's okay if she pooped and never actually went to bed. So you're gonna have to go in there and change her, or just move the sleep up. All of this was so helpful. But for moms that maybe can't afford this because it is an investment, I will tell you the most important investment that you can make for your family and overall health of your family. But for the moms that just simply can't afford it, what would you say is the most important thing? Sleeping, like putting themselves down by themselves, like a baby being able to self-soothe, or is it the naps, all of it, a combination?
I think it'd be a combination of it. Just get ahead of the overtired windows. So just make sure you're following those wake windows, lay your baby down awake, wide awake. Contact naps are okay and on the go once a day. You don't want to overdo it, but you also want to get those cuddles in the carrier if you're out for a walk. And another thing is just making sure they're not overtired. I think that's like the number one thing to focus on. Just like, and if they're in the crib and they won't sleep and they're fighting the nap and it's so hard, stick them in the stroller, go in the car for a drive. 20 minutes of sleep can help get them away from that overtired window. So it can be a mental battle to like be in and out of the nursery, soothing and pacifying and trying so hard to get them to sleep in the crib.
You can get to a really dark place.
You really can. You really can. And I've had some really hard nights too, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this?
Okay. Yeah. Let's actually talk about that because Taylor and I were discussing this, like what your day in the life looks like. When you go in, great, you're this up all night. But then the next night, if you have to go to work, like when do you sleep?
Oh my gosh, it varies. I have like the worst case of FOMO ever. And I'm a social butterfly. So it's really hard for me to like prioritize myself and my sleep. So when I'm working at night, it actually works out well because I don't really miss out on any friend things because I'm sleeping. But then during the day, everyone's like, let's go to brunch, let's go do this and that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but I have to sleep. So I usually try and just take care of myself in ways where I get a workout in and I sleep for like at least 4 or 5 hours in the day. Like that's my minimum. Ideally, I'm trying to get closer to 8 or 9, but it just kind of depends on the day and what I have going on. But just trying to prioritize like getting a workout in for my mental health, and then also just making sure I'm sleeping at least 4 to 5.
So you're not working those 7 nights a week. Like how do you establish?
No, we tried to hire her for 7 nights and she wouldn't.
I'm sure you did.
It's like
you did.
I'll only allow Danielle with the baby. And she's like, well, it could be me for 4 and then somebody else for 3. He's like, no.
Just Danielle, yeah. I actually get that all the time. So I try and limit myself at 4 nights a week, especially when I'm offering these 72-hour programs, because if I'm working for a family 5-6 nights a week, I don't have the flexibility to do the 72-hour programs. Yeah. But then that's when I'm working every night.
Because 4 plus 3 equals 7. And you're like, oh shit, I've overcommitted and now I'm exhausted.
Exactly. So I kind of, my 3 to 4 is my sweet spot. And it just also depends on the family and how the baby is. And, you know, I just try, and we typically book for like 12 to 14 weeks. So I know I'll be like with the same family for a long period of time. And as the baby gets better sleep, I'm also getting better sleep during the day. And it's just kind of like we kind of roll together. So, yeah.
Well, what programs do you offer? I mean, we talked about 72 and sleep through, but yes. What else if for like newborns, or how do your programs work?
So for newborns, my newborn sleeping through the night guarantee is basically we recommend at least 3 nights a week for 12 to 14
Did you say guarantee?
It's guaranteed. Yes. Yeah. So with the newborn program, you get a full sleep plan and coaching support with me, where I'm giving you a schedule and program to follow. And you also have like text and call support with me during the day, where I can kind of walk you through how to adjust.
How many times have I used that?
Yeah, she's like, block Kendra from 10 to 5 so I can sleep.
For sure.
Yeah. So then and then I'm with the baby. We recommend at least 3 nights, like 4 to 5 is probably better for the consistency. And then we're in there at night, pushing the babies through and getting them to go longer stretches. And then by the 12 to 14 weeks, the babies are sleeping and we're on to our next. So that's our newborn options. And then for like older babies, I do like just nap training days, or I'll do just overnights, where if families don't want to do the whole 72-hour program, they'll follow like a nap schedule during the day. And then I'll come for just the nights and do the sleep training at night for 4 or 5 nights in a row, depending on how old the baby is. And then that program also works really well.
And you will give them the nap schedule to follow during the day. Then
you kind of own her at
really, yeah.
I hate to say that. Sorry to put that out there, but she literally leaves and she's like, I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. I'm here for you until your kid is at what age?
Honestly, I mean,
you become like family. Like I told you when you're coming over, I'm like, it's like you're coming home. Welcome home.
I know. And I was so excited to see you again.
Yeah.
It's so fun to like watch all the babies grow up.
For sure.
Always leave my address for all the families. I want Christmas cards. I want all things and first birthdays. It's really special. So, yeah.
Well, obviously you're like family because you're coming in. When I was watching your TikToks, I'm like, how do you feel so comfortable coming into a family's home at night? Like, I feel like that's when you're walking around without a bra. That's are the husbands walking around in their underwear?
Well, and just giving birth, like you're wearing a diaper. Some women are still.
Do you hear people fighting? Like,
yeah, you hear give us the goods now.
I want to know.
I do hear some stuff. It's funny. Like
she's probably heard it at my house.
Yeah, tell us what you hear here.
A little bit of like, what are we doing? Like, who is this lady? Like, especially in those first few weeks. And I just try and come in like just super comfortable and confident, and just like so that you know that you can trust me. And
your energy is so important.
Exactly. Like calming, even for the baby too, they pick up on the energy. So if I'm in there stressed, nervous, like I don't know you guys either. I think it's hilarious that whenever someone hires me, they want to call my references. And I'm like, hold on, I should call your references.
100%.
Yeah, like I'm coming into your house.
You know what? And I feel like, Danielle, you're finally at this place. You've worked, how many years have you been doing this? Over 10?
Yeah. Okay. Over 10 years.
So you're at this place where like now you get to be picky. Exactly. Like I'm interviewing you actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my clients now are returning clients. I've worked with families that now have 4 or 5 kids, and I've worked for the last 3, and it's like
I'm not doing another embryo transfer unless I know that in 9 months you're available.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'll get
people do that though,
and people call me like as they're paying on their pregnancy test. Like,
I'm pregnant.
I haven't even told my husband yet. I'm pregnant. Like we're doing 9 months.
I told you first. I think I told Gus, and then I told you.
Yeah.
Okay. You when the time comes for me, like you have to be available for me because I deserve this. How does one go about hiring a night nanny? Like, how do you know that you're the right fit? Do you sit down? I'm sure you sat down for a 30-minute interview with Kendra. Like, no,
Gus was hard. He interviewed.
Oh my, you're kidding. You're kidding.
I had my conversation with Gus on the phone.
He's such an asshole, huh?
I was so shocked, and I usually don't honestly talk to the dads. It's almost always talking to the moms.
Welcome to my marriage.
And Gus is he's strong and powerful and he has
Yes.
a loud voice. And I was like, and he was serious. He meant business. And he was like, what are you going to do? How does it work? So many questions. I think we talked for 25 minutes on the phone.
Danielle, I'm so
But
sorry.
I loved him. And I like hung up the phone. I remember texting my husband and saying, oh my gosh, this is going to be an awesome family. Like I was so excited. And it just
Because you knew that like behind this asshole was this amazing
oh
wife.
my gosh, yeah. So the most important part of hiring a night nanny is like being super comfortable and trusting this person. So I try and be available to the mom in the interview process like as much as she wants. I'll come to the house and meet you in person. I'll do a Zoom meeting with you. Sometimes a phone call suffice. I share out my references, happy to refer her to moms in the area that have used me. And then it's just a lot of word of mouth too. Like I feel like you're more trusting of me if you hear from me from your friend rather than seeing me on TikTok and wondering like, okay, who do I know that used her? Or is this going to be a stranger to me? But just as whatever I can do to make the mom and dad most comfortable so that they can trust me when I come in.
So obviously you're local, but like for the people that are in Oklahoma that this lady's like, God, I wish I had something like this here. You do virtual help.
I do. Yeah. So I can offer support where I can give you a sleep plan and a schedule and just kind of give you the tips and tricks to follow.
Have people flown you places?
I have. Yes. I have.
Love that.
Flown. Yeah. It's exciting. And I've been able to travel with lots of families too, which is super fun. I've gone off to Texas and
wild.
Mississippi actually.
This is a thing.
Yeah. It's crazy. So NorCal a few times too. So.
And okay, I know that like you probably have actually signed NDAs.
I have.
Okay, because you're a celebrity sleep trainer.
I have worked for quite a few celebrities. It's super cool to be able to meet like these.
Are they just like us?
I was going to say, are the celebrities just like us, just desperate for sleep?
You guys might be cool. But it's just sleep is so important for everyone at any age. It just goes to show that like sleep and recovery, like they can't perform. They can't do their job if they're not rested and they don't have enough sleep under their belt. So just stay at home mom or you have a full-time job.
Sleep is sleep.
Traveling, sleep is sleep.
Yep.
And I need it too. So it's like, even if I'm
Gus, we can't have her 7 days.
Yeah. So it's really cool to be able to meet like all these awesome people, like award-winning actors. And,
Okay, so can you tease us like somebody, like one of the biggest people you've
She's
done?
trying to get it out of you.
I know.
She's trying to make you crack your
Oh my
NDA.
gosh.
Give us a hint.
It might be your like man crush, your hall pass, but that's all I can say.
Goes Googles who's had babies in the last several years and won Oscars. Yeah.
And what happens in their house? No,
I know. Okay. Let's go there. Get the coffee a little stronger.
Okay, wait. What is like the wildest story that you've had, like doing an overnight with a family?
Oh my gosh.
So many, probably. I know.
So many. The most recent I could say is I actually was working with a pair of twins. It's 6 months ago or so. And they were up in their nursery upstairs, kitchen was downstairs, and they were awake and ready to eat. And I felt so bad because the in-laws were sleeping next door. The toddler was sleeping next door. Mom and dad were down the hall.
And how old are the twins?
They were 8 or 9 weeks at the time.
Oh my gosh, so tiny.
They were tiny and they needed to eat. They were ready. So thankfully, I left them both in the crib to go run downstairs to get their bottle. But as I'm running, I missed the light switch. So I'm running down their wooden stairs in the dark. I missed the last few steps and I broke my foot.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I literally it was the most painful thing ever. I heard the snap. It was miserable. But it was like I had 2 more hours of my shift left. They were upstairs screaming. They were like ready to wake up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just have to keep going. So I hobbled over to the Brezza. I made the bottles. I grabbed a giant Ziploc bag of ice. I went up and I propped the babies in pillows and I elevated my foot and I fed them their bottles.
A true athlete, warrior, woman. I don't even know what to say about you. Like, I'd be like, 911, your children are awake. Call me an ambulance. I got to get the fuck out of here. This one's like, I will do it. Like, army crawling back to the twins.
After they stopped eating, I was able to pick them up and burp and put them back down, and I still had maybe 45 minutes.
The babies were burped. No one was harmed.
Don't worry. They were good. And I didn't have any like Advil or Tylenol or anything in my bag. I literally crawled down the hall to the bathroom, like trying to get in the medicine cabinet, seeing if I could find like Advil or something. But I ended up texting the mom and saying like, hey, if you wake up and see this, like, let me know. And then she ended up seeing it a few minutes before it was time to go. And I drove straight to the ER and yeah.
It was your left foot.
It was my left foot. Yes. I was able to drive and my husband was like yelling at me like, why didn't you leave?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
What are you doing to your body?
Like,
but that's how
these
committed you
babies are my babies. That's why.
Truly.
The mom needed sleep. Like I was only there a few times a week and
Girl, you needed your foot looked at.
I know, but these they were really reflux babies. They were having hard days. They just, I knew that.
Did you have like an emotional breakdown after? Like that has got to be like, even talking about it now probably has got to be like, wow.
It was overwhelming. And I think adrenaline at first,
For sure.
and then
but then it runs out.
It does. And I actually started like sobbing
Yeah.
and bawling, and I was like so emotionally overwhelmed. And the mom was so sweet. My other night nanny came in and took over for the next couple of days, so I could.
Oh, how nice.
Heal your broken
Yeah.
ankle. Yeah.
Okay, so when you go into a house, that story is absolutely mind-blowing. But when you go into a house, like I'm just thinking, because you said in-laws are there, like who typically is the hardest ones to get through? Like whether that's the mom, the dad, the in-laws, the grandparents, like
The grandparents.
The grandparents.
Always the grandparents. I get the most, I don't want to say kickback, but
They like don't get it.
no. And they're like, it's,
So-
what are all these contraptions? What's this swaddle? Like, we just left them on their tummies. Like, it's like just a very different, it's different
Yeah.
now than what they did back then. So it's like a lot of just questions and, oh, you don't need all this stuff, or what's this? Just let the baby sleep when they want to sleep. And so that's the most, I would say, that it's getting the grandparents on board. But then once they see how it's working,
they're like, thank you
they're
for
like,
saving
yeah.
my daughter.
and we'll
And
pay
yeah.
for you to come for the next baby.
100%.
Yeah. My
Okay.
mom thought I was crazy too. She was like, why are you waking the sleeping baby? I'm
Yes,
like,
you idiot.
because you have to cap the naps
Yeah.
or else he doesn't sleep at night.
They're like,
She's
no, you
"You're
don't. You
so
were
crazy."
fine.
Now she
That's the
gets
best
it.
thing. You were fine. You were fine when you were little. You were easy. Okay, in my house, mine was our nanny.
Yeah.
What did our nanny say to you?
Oh my gosh. She was like, oh, this isn't good for the babies. Like, it's, it's not the best thing. And she goes, I read this in books. And I said, what books? She goes, oh, it was the Bible. And I was like, oh,
Jesus.
times were way different than when the Bible was written. So,
And I also don't think it's in the Bible, right?
I'm like, oh gosh, I got to reread that chapter.
Yeah. And then it's funny. It's a
But
lot.
all out of love and concern for the
Absolutely,
babies,
yeah.
of just protection and wanting the best. But now she's literally your biggest fan. She wanted to be here today when you were coming. I'm like, no, you cannot come. But she's just your biggest fan because she sees that what you do works.
And sleep training can be so intimidating. Everyone thinks it's the concept of like, shut the door, let my baby scream.
Oh, for sure.
And that's it. And honestly, it's not that way.
It's the opposite.
It's really quite the opposite. A lot of soothing, a lot of extra care. It actually-
Making sure the needs are met. That's what you said to me. I'm like, okay,
all
that
the needs are met.
yes.
They're not sick. They're not teething. They have full tummies. Their diapers are clean. You check all the boxes, and it's natural for us all to sleep at every age. So then we're just showing them they can do that. And when people say, oh, this isn't good for the baby, sleep training isn't good, I'm like, well, actually, the babies are suffering more from lack of sleep.
sleep
And it
deprivation, the
causes-
brain development is not
Exactly,
happening.
Exactly. The most important time for the babies to grow and develop is through sleeping. And oftentimes after I work with families, I get messages and saying, oh my gosh, Zoe sat up for the first time, and oh my gosh, Zane's rolling
Big
now.
things are happening.
Yeah, and it's like as soon as they start getting that sleep, you start to see that during the day they're more alert, they're more active, they're more chatty, they're doing all these different developmental milestones that they weren't doing before because they just weren't getting enough sleep.
And then you actually, as a mom, have time, like the laying down awake thing. That for me, I obviously through the night was huge, but the laying down awake, I remember holding the babies to sleep sometimes 15, 20, 30, 45, an hour, sometimes contact naps, a lot of times contact naps. But that of like, you're laying your baby down, saying good night or have a good nap, and then you're going to do the rest of your life, whether that's a shower, washing dishes, your laundry, watching a show. Like you actually have the gift of time back during the day. That was like shocking. Like, what am I going to do with all this time? Let's start a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. I call them mama milestones because it's
Yeah.
like we're all so like excited for when our babies hit these milestones, but like the biggest milestones for mamas are our own time showering without having to worry about running to get the baby, not hearing phantom cries when you're in the shower, all these things. So it's a gift for everyone.
Yeah.
It's hard for me sometimes because I feel like, in the world that we live in, people are like, oh, you got to earn your mom stripes and you do that by, being sleep deprived for this amount of time. Or people like sleep training is such a like hot
Taboo.
topic.
Yeah.
in
Like,
the
how
mom
dare you do
world.
that? And
Yeah. Like
I was
even
that
me-
person for a long time.
I know.
obviously. Yeah.
Even to me.
I know.
I
Sorry.
remember
I'm
when
sorry.
I first came
Here's
to-
my apologies. Sorry.
you.
When I first came to work with you and Zane, the difference of when I came with Zoe, it was so
I was a different
Yeah,
person.
you really were. And it
Yeah.
was like, I think once you see it work the first time, you have all of these thoughts and preconceptions. And like you said, it's such a hot topic. And then when you kind of do it, you're like, wait, this is actually way better for all of us. And then it's a totally different approach.
Well, and it's so funny. I want to get into Zane a little bit because I've worked with you twice and you had so much. Okay, Zane's 2 now. So 8 years plus of experience at the time of doing it. So you were so confident and I was too. And I'm like, she's got it. I knew referrals. You obviously knew people. Belle used you. Like my friends have used you. Yeah. And then we did Zane and there was outside factors. So I want to talk about I don't know, maybe actually, was he the only outside factor of a child that
He is honestly the only baby I have sleep trained that hasn't been able to sleep train.
And how many
That
babies
doesn't
have
shock
you?
me.
I know, of course, I have that one.
I
how many have you
seriously don't
done?
even know. over, oh my gosh,
Hundreds of babies. So I have the one, my little golden egg.
Yeah, after I couldn't say 100% success rate on my program.
No, don't say that. No, because honestly, look
He's
now.
sleepy now.
Yeah.
Look, it's because you laid the good
Foundation.
foundation.
Yeah. But we did have outside factors, and we did him at like, I think 9 months, almost 10.
Yeah, I think so. 8.5, I think, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which was a perfect age of doing it. But it was like there was something that was missing. And I remember on the third night, first off, on the first night, you and I had so much fun talking. I was up till 2 a.m. with you.
Yeah.
You're like,
we need to go to bed. I'm here to get
you're like, sweetie, you're supposed to be sleeping. You're paying me to. Yeah. I'm like, no, I just want to talk.
Yeah.
But all that to be said, you left on the third day and you're like, I could tell you didn't feel 100% confident.
And I kind of knew because usually on the third night, the babies wake up once, if not at all.
Yeah.
And I think he still woke up a couple times. He put himself back to sleep every time, which is still a huge win.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit like, okay, like there's something else going on. And, we checked all the boxes and I've done the program many times before him. And I was like, okay, maybe this is just the one that didn't work and they need a couple extra nights.
You're like, maybe I need to rethink my career. I'm just joking.
Broke me.
He broke you. But then, okay, so that was, I think, like June-ish. So then March, so 9 months later, I ended up getting a sleep study because I kept implementing the things. And I'm like, there's something not right. I could tell, mommy intuition. And it turned out he had sleep apnea, which like, hello. And we will get into a different episode of my children's sleep habits, or at least Zane's. But looking at that, like the fact that not all 2 kids are the same. And then you had Zoe, who was
oh my gosh,
an angel.
Seriously. Like she like was the perfect on schedule baby. Like she did incredible. The goal is to get them to eat it all in the one sitting when they wake up. So I usually make a bigger bottle for whenever they wake up and right after their nap. Because you also want to avoid snacking. Like you don't want her eating an ounce like throughout the day,
which is what I'm doing.
Going to be able to get a good nap in because she's going to want to wake up in the middle of the nap to eat an ounce or 2. So filling her up before her nap, but making sure you're not feeding her to sleep. So that's another touch on always laying her down awake. So top her up before her nap if you need to, an extra ounce or 2. And then lay her down. But aim for the most you can right when she wakes up. And then if you have to offer a little bit.
Like a couple ounces. So let's get into the logistics. How does one hire you? Like when Kendra and I are going to pee on a stick for...
I know, we better do it at different times, huh?
We have to do it at different times. Yeah. Like how far in advance are you booking? When do we have to pay? Is there payment options? Like how do people do this?
So we book up far in advance. Like right now I'm booked through the year. Baby's coming in like September, October.
They don't even have names yet.
No, don't even have names.
You and your whole team are booked through the whole year.
We are.
You need more. So okay,
it's May.
But also, yeah, it is. But what if also girls want to work for you? Like I think we should. I don't know if you're hiring.
I'm actually trying to hire more. Okay. And that's another part. Is like I want to make sure the girls I hire I trust and I know.
For sure.
So I'm a little bit weary about like having people send resumes and just like not
do you do background checks, word of mouth?
Background checks, and I do a lot of training. So I also like have the potential night nanny come with me for at least 5 or 6 nights where I'm like working with them, seeing how they are with the baby, seeing how they handle different situations. And
you're putting your stamp of approval on these people.
Right. Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll just like drop in and say like, okay, I'm coming to your night next week. And I'll just go and just like check in on them for a couple hours.
Coach Danielle.
Just to make sure you got to keep them on their toes.
100%.
I mean, it's very, like I said, it's such a trusting, like you're trusting us with your newborn baby.
Yeah.
You want to make sure who's in the house is confident and good at what they're doing. But yeah, so we book up pretty far in advance. So I recommend calling like right after you hit that 12-week mark. You're 3 months pregnant, you're in a good spot, just get it situated then. And typically how my like booking works is we do a contract and an invoice, which is, it serves as the deposit to hold the dates in reserve. So we're guaranteed, which is you pay for your first week just in advance. So you pay for your first week with the contract. You reserve us, we're secured for you. And then when we start our program, normal weekly payment starts on the second week and you just pay per week and we go from there.
Which I think that's really smart that you do it that way, because what we touched on earlier is obviously this is an investment, a really important one, but it is something for people to consider with like second or third babies of putting it on the registry.
Absolutely.
Like we don't need any more blankets or beanies. We need sleep.
Especially when it's baby number 2 and you have all the leftover stuff from baby number 1. You
right.
don't need as much. What do they call it? A sprinkle?
A sprinkle. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a
Sprinkle
great
me
idea
with
to-
sleep.
Yeah.
No, that's what I told Jer. I said for number 3, I don't want anything. Like what I want is a night nanny because my sister is getting ready to have a baby and she's due in July. And I just told her on Monday, I said, I feel like I'm going to be able to enjoy your newborn so much more than mine because I don't like,
No, you
obviously
always
I
enjoy
loved
other people's
my
newborns.
newborn, but like I'll be able to be in every moment and milestone. Like for me, I was so tired and your postpartum hormones and all of that. And it's like, so I feel like that's such a cool
gift. It's
It's
truly a gift that you need, and that will be an investment not only for you but for the baby. Like the baby needs the mom sleeping.
Exactly. And sometimes we don't do like a 12 to 14 week thing. It's like for the first couple weeks, especially if moms know they're having a C-section, that recovery can be brutal.
Yeah.
And it takes time and you can't get up and you can't go up and down the stairs. So sometimes families will hire us just for the first 2 to 3 weeks just to get them through. I mean, they always end up adding on a little bit more.
Of course.
after,
Of
but you gotta get
Once you get
Yeah.
so I didn't obviously hire you for Zoe to do the nights, like consecutively night nanny 7 days a week because you wouldn't. You'd only do 4. And Gus is like, so who are we going to do? We did my nanny and her sister, which was huge. But I ended up having a hemorrhage during Zoe, so I physically I could not. And I also had Zane waking up still at night as a 2-year-old, but I couldn't get up out of bed and be there. Like I physically could not do it. If I did, I'm sure my husband would have watched me and been like, here you go, you're fine, honey. Keep going. But that, it's huge. C-sections, you've recovered from that. Like lifting up out of bed, you're supposed to be in bed for 45 to 50 days in other cultures after having a baby. In America, it's like, nope, you're fine. Get up, go
back to
walk
work.
around, get back
Yes.
to work. Go pee and you could leave the hospital. There's so much that's so harsh on the mom and that we're just expected to rally and bounce back and do all these things. It's more about no, let's nurture the mom.
Exactly. And it truly takes a village. And there's a lot of kickback on getting night nannies too. Like you guys
Yes.
said earlier, oh, you have a night nanny. Why don't you do it by yourself? You're missing out on all these moments. It's
Cue the mother-in-law.
Yeah, seriously. It's so important for recovery and birth and even the bond. You just need that in the first few weeks to help the sleep, the recovery.
You need all of it. And I'm just going to pump you up for a second. You blew up on TikTok.
Blew up.
And I think it's because people are so intrigued by this whole night nanny thing.
Concept, they're like, what is this? We didn't
Well,
know this
yes,
existed.
and
Yeah.
especially for people who maybe can't afford it and just what in the
Tips.
world do
What
you
did you
do?
do? And
Okay, so what video blew up on TikTok and what has it
right
been
away
like?
though.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I posted one months ago and it just a night in the life. I just propped my phone up of washing bottles, feeding the baby. Of course, I always get the parents' permission to post. You don't want to.
Yes.
But anyway, so I propped it all up and I just posted a video of me going to work, a night in the life, and it really didn't do well at all. It just kind of sat there.
It was a flop.
Yeah, it was a flop. And my husband was
We all have 'em.
telling me you need to post more. This will be interesting to people. I've never seen a night nanny on TikTok. You just try and post it again. So he convinced me to do it again. And then the second one I did, same idea, just a night in the life. And it just blew up and it was just people were like, oh my gosh, what is this? And this is crazy. I've never seen this before. We don't have this in Germany. We don't have this here. It was the
But when you
comments
say
were
blew up,
insane.
how many views blow up?
Oh my gosh, over 8 million on multiple videos. It's insane. I was
There's 7 million, 9 million, 8 million. It was
oh my
huge.
gosh, it was huge.
Right away.
And it was literally overnight. So I was like, okay. So I started posting
Let's go.
more and I'm doing more sleep training videos too. And just kind of trying to get into the groove of it and see what people like. I found that it's definitely the night nanny and the overnight because it's just such a interesting topic. People just don't know. And the comments it's a lot of conversation too. People are commenting oh, this is my experience. I had a night nanny or I wish I had this. So I think it just gets people talking and kind of opening the spectrum of wow, you don't have to do it all by yourself.
For
you
sure.
can get help and this is normal and someone can love your baby just as much as you do. And so that we can all prioritize our health.
Well, and you're also pulling back the curtain on something that we don't see because you hear about a night nanny, but it's what the hell is going on over there?
what do
What
they
is
actually
going on
do?
from
Yeah.
12 to 6 a.m.? So you're kind of opening that curtain for people. Have you found that the questions on your TikToks are similar to the questions that
Oh my
we're
gosh,
asking?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. What's the night look like? How do I get started? I'm actually seeing a lot of comments of people how do I do this? I'm a NICU nurse. I would love to do this.
A lot of
Oh.
people.
An RN, how do you get started? How do you find clients? So it's great.
But you know what? I will say, Danielle, they all say that until they walk those shoes. What you do is hard ass work. There is nothing easy about you make it look very easy, but I dare bitches to try to be like, oh, I could do that too. Yeah, no, you watched my 90-second reel on TikTok. Like, you have no idea what you do. Really hard work.
It is hard. And also like a little bit of my, like I don't sleep at home with my husband a lot of the time. So it's like a lot of my personal life is very different. And if I do go out to dinner with friends, I'm out of there at 9. I can't have a drink.
You're not drinking.
Like it's, it's definitely an adjustment. And I think by the time I have my own kids, I'm going to be like a free for all. Like they can do whatever they want. No sleep.
Yours won't be
the
sleeping.
Worst sleepers ever. Like it's just, but it's such a gift to be able to do this. But at the same time, it's definitely goes into like managing myself and my time and my relationships too.
There's a sacrifice that you give to these moms. Absolutely. Yeah. Part of like what you're giving back to us is taking from you.
But I'm happy to give it. And it's I feel so blessed and lucky. Like this is such an amazing job. And I never even knew I didn't even know it was a thing.
Until you made it.
Exactly. Until all of a sudden it's here and I'm good at it and I love it. And
you're really fucking good at it.
Like, guys, thank you. Yeah.
You are truly doing
I get like
the
emotional.
Lord's work.
Like I know I get emotional talking to her because I'm like, you gave me like, I don't know what I would be doing without you.
No.
Like
it's
truly.
It's so important. Okay. Before we let you go, tell everybody where they can find you on social.
If you're not already following her on TikTok.
Yeah. On TikTok, Instagram, the Sleepy Pear, my website, you can find me, contact me directly through there for help. Text me. I'm the most easily accessible via text, but it was so fun to hang out with you guys.
Oh my God. Thank you for being here with us and sharing like all of your knowledge. It's so important even for people who, like we said, maybe can't afford to have you in their home. Just to hear little tips and tricks is really helpful.
Thank you for trusting me with your babies.
We've had 4 between the 2 of us and I've had you twice and I'm still learning stuff. So it's so helpful.
And reserve me. I will be texting you immediately.
It's a race between who has the first. Who gets pregnant for the 3rd first.
I know. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle. So much fun. We love you.
Thanks for tuning in to Camp Chaos. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Connect with us on social media at Camp Chaos Podcast.
Until next time, campers.